Hi, this is Mark Olsey with the 15th lesson and 15th week on the class, Make Your Marriage Great. And I'm excited to share with you again today. This is part 3 of a series that I've done in the midst of this from weeks 13 and 14. It's all about how a great marriage must be built. So this is part 3 of that little mini series here. A great marriage must be built. So as I mentioned in weeks 13 and 14, that if you're going to build a plan, build a marriage, you have to have a plan. And that plan would include a vision, a plan itself on how to accomplish the vision, how to bring it about, raw materials, like if you're going to build something, you have to have raw materials. Help, what kind of help are you going to need to make this marriage great, your marriage great? And then what kind of personal resources are you going to require? Last class, we talked about the vision. We talked about the idea of needing to have a picture in your mind, a very specific and detailed vision of what do you want your marriage to look like a year from now, 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years from now. What do you want your marriage to look like? We talked about that in last week's class, and I gave you some homework to begin to work through a vision, to come up with a vision as clearly as you can. If you haven't gone through the last 2 classes, go back to read those, watch the videos, and work through the homework assignment about creating a vision. That's last week's. This week's, we're going to talk about the plan itself, the raw materials needed to bring it about, the help we need, and the personal resources. So, getting on to the idea of creating a plan. Creating a plan. It's like creating a blueprint of what you're going to build and a cost analysis. So let's talk a little bit about the blueprint. A step-by-step means to achieve the plan. Again, starting with your vision, what will your marriage look like in a year, 5 years, or 20 years from now? We need to, again, be as specific as possible. I gave some examples. You can use these or go back to revise the vision you created, but just some examples of things that I would want you to be thinking through specifically as far as a vision of what you'd like your marriage to be like in the future. So for instance, you might write down, we will have learned how to communicate in a way where we regularly encourage each other and we make a place for each person to feel safe enough to discuss any matter of concern. If you think about it at all, you know that it's critically important for either one of you to share important matters, things that are going inside of your head or your soul. You need to feel safe. So a year from now, 5 years from now, we will have had to create a relationship, a culture between us where we feel safe enough to discuss any matter of concern. That's an idea of a specific about a vision. Maybe another one is we will consistently talk through conflict in a healthy manner where we learn from each other in the process. That's what learning pledge talk is all about. And because you are a part of this class and the pledge talk learning community, you can learn about pledge talk as well to learn how to talk through conflict in a healthy manner where you can learn from each other in the process. Another example is we will consider each other as best friends. If you're not there now, that can be a vision. We want to be there. We want to get there. Okay, that's the plan. Then we got to start thinking through how are we going to get there to get to the place where we consider each other as best friends. We'll develop an agreed upon plan for raising our kids. That includes shared values, discipline methods, character traits to model and develop in our children, and more. We have to talk about matters such as these and how are we going to bring that about so we can instill those kind of things in our children and parent well. Another idea is we will have an agreed upon budget on which we work together. So my wife and I have been married for 40 years, and for just about that long, about 35 years into our marriage, we were challenged by some friends of ours and then mentored by them on how to budget. And they have been a source of help and encouragement even to us this day, 35 years later. But it was through a mentor, someone else who helped us. So those are some ideas, some examples of some vision of where you might say, we want to be there in a year, 5 years, or 20 years. So those are kind of things that I want you to do. If you haven't done this yet, go back and think those kind of things through. So very specifically, what's the vision of where we would like to be in our future? So the second part of the idea of having a blueprint then is a cost analysis, where you count the cost to see what it would actually literally cost, and if you want to spend what is needed. There's financial cost. To fulfill those 5 examples I said above, it'll take money. You'll need to purchase some books, to attend some seminars, to get some counsel or coaching on such matters. It'll take some finances. It'll take time to read books, to go to seminars, to get some counsel, and then to dialogue with each other, to think through what are the values we want to instill, and to learn about parenting and disciplining our children, to think about character traits and how we want to instill them in our children. That's going to take time to talk about these matters. It's going to take time in your relationship to do so. It's a cost. That's part of counting the cost. How much are we willing to invest in our marriage, in our family? Will we do it, and when will we do it? It's an emotional cost. This is where we will invest in our own personal growth, to face the traumas of our past, big or small, which have influenced us earlier in life, then left a residue that negatively affects our current relationships. Again, will we do what it takes to look at those in ourselves, not to point the finger at the other person and say it's all your fault, but to say, what is it in my past that's affecting me negatively today, and affecting and causing me to have a hurtful or negative effect on our relationship? Will I take time? Will you take time to invest in ourselves and our own personal growth? It's an emotional cost that it takes, and again, financial and time as well to do so. How about personal and physical energy cost? Everything that I've mentioned requires energy, and that comes as a cost to us both physically and personally, just like it would to master anything else in life. The question I have is, do you want a great marriage? You see, over the course of a lifetime, most of us want to excel in one, if not several areas, whether it's golfing or cooking or investing or gardening or weightlifting or running. We invest time in all these kind of different things. We invest money in all these we invest energy in all these kind of things to become good at these areas. My question is, will you take the same type of, we make the same kind of commitment? Will you take the time and the money and invest in your marriage, and even develop a plan like you would in any of these other areas to see that happen? That's a hugely important question. I hope the answer for you is yes. To have a great marriage, it takes raw materials. This would include, but not be limited to things, but include things like sacrifice. Sacrifice. All parents know what the word sacrifice means. You constantly have to give up what you wanted to accomplish in any given day so you can take care of a child and her or his needs. My question is, how often do you or will you sacrifice what you want to do for your spouse's desires or needs? A great marriage takes a lot of sacrifice. It's one of those most important raw materials to build that great marriage. It takes commitment. Research shows that the hormones released at the beginning of a marriage, they even off somewhere during the first 2 years of marriage. This is when the feelings of having fallen in love can fall away, which begins a season where couples can wonder things like, what happened? Did I marry the wrong person? That is when the real work begins. That is when the decision to live by the vow you made at the altar of loving the other person really matters. So you see, you and I made a commitment to love them until the time that either one or both of us dies. Please understand, this is a decision to love. It's a decision, regardless of any feelings or lack thereof. And so you set out to do love or to be loving, whether you feel like it or not. This is real love, not just the feeling of love when boy first meets girl. Next class will be a class where we talk about the benefits of being married for life. It'll be a fun and very thought-provoking class as well. Another raw material, patience. Need I say more? All of life requires our patience. All of life is a process. All of life is in process. And all of life is broken or will break down in some way or another. As I've put together this class, I've done so on a brand new computer. Why? Because I've been typing on an old one for quite some time that has been breaking down. Your marriage, like mine, your relationship with your spouse, like mine, is not and never will be perfect. It is broken and therefore will require great patience. It's also in process of being made whole again and being made to be something great if you work at it and are patient in the process until the day one or both of you die. So be patient with each other. Patience is another critical raw material of building a great marriage. Kindness. If you want a great marriage, you must work at being kind to each other every day. Be helpful, not lazy. Use whatever energy you have at the end of the day and then some to love, to show love, or to be loving toward your spouse. Be kind today and every day. It will go a long way to creating a great marriage. Again, it's another vital raw material. Another is living out love in every way, every day. Living out love. One man wrote, "Owe no man anything but to love one another." Another version of that saying is, pay your debts as they become due. However, one debt you can never finish paying is the debt of love that you owe each other. The debt of love. I don't know where you're at in your spiritual journey. I know we're all somewhere. I personally believe there's a God who loves us and has shown us that love and shows us his love every day of our lives. And because of that, all I can do is say, I have a debt to show love in return to him and to those around me. Most of all, my spouse. Pay your debts as they come due. However, one debt you can never finish paying is the debt of love that you owe each other. Live out love every day in every way. Here's a working definition of love. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. Love does not demand its own way. Love is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. Love does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices when the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith. Love is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. It's a great definition of love. It comes from the Bible, in a book of the Bible called Corinthians. Another place where I think you and I can both find what love looks like is when we consider Jesus. Whatever you believe about Christianity and the church, Jesus is arguably the greatest man who ever lived and the greatest role model of what love looks like. So again, wherever you're at in your spiritual journey, I would encourage you, read through what is called the Gospels in the Bible. They are the first 4 sections or books of the New Testament, which is the second part of the Bible. There's the old part of the Old Testament and the new part of the New Testament. And it's the first 4 books of the New Testament: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Read through the Gospels. Those are the first 4 books, New Testament, and each of them is the depiction of the life of Jesus from one person's perspective, and then another, and then a third, and then a fourth. Read through those and just think about Jesus and how he interacted and loved people. Another way you can learn about and watch and see how Jesus loved people is to watch The Chosen. Yeah, watch The Chosen. It's a new series of videos about the life of Jesus. I love them. I mean, I think by far they're the best depiction of who Jesus was and is and how he cares for people. And here's the cool thing. All you need to do is go to the App Store on your phone and download the app called The Chosen. It's unique in that the whole series is free and it can be watched on your device or mirrored to your computer or smart TV. So make that your next series of like a Netflix series to watch The Chosen series. There's actually 2 series or 2 years out of with 8 episodes to each, and they're actually going to have 7 different years of series. So there's going to be a lot to watch there and a lot to learn about Jesus and his love for people and for you and I, and shows us what love looks like. Okay, that is all on the raw materials it will take. There's more, but those are some of the key ones it's going to take to build a great marriage. The next section I talk about is help. What kind of help are we going to need? Well, in learning any, habit or skill, we need people with various expertise. Well, the same is true for marriage. If you want to have a great marriage, you're going to have people around you who have expertise in the area of relationships or the area of marriage. One such person is a counselor. I've already talked about the idea that it's going to require that you do some own personal work with your own areas of past trauma or challenges that you have faced in the past, or you do face together. So a counselor is a good counselor, someone to go with. And it will be someone that you invest time in, energy, and money. But it's a person that is like a team member to have for building a great marriage. Another person is a coach. So a counselor often is thought of helping us to kind of work through a lot of our past that affects us today. And a coach takes us where we are and helps us to move forward. Now, there's definitely crossover in both, so I don't make it a huge distinction, but it's another kind of person you can think about it. Finding a good life coach to help, again, be on your team to help you to build a great marriage. A mentor or a role model of a couple that does have a good marriage. Look around. Do you know of anyone at all that comes to mind where you say, they have a marriage? Maybe it's not perfect, but they're doing some things that I think are really good, and we would like to emulate them or learn from them. Find one or two or three couples like that, and just simply go and say, can we spend some time with you? You have some things that we want to emulate, we want to learn from, and we just would like to spend some time and learn from you. Can we do that? Most couples would be glad, would be flattered and honored to do that. Find some mentors or role models you can spend time with and learn from, and they can be on your team. Another person is a pastor. If you go to a church, or a priest, if you go to a church as well, to find someone like that you can talk to and learn from more about Jesus and his love for us. Finally, I say, find some wise friends. Again, kind of like mentors, role models, but just find some wise friends. Don't find husbands, don't find a guy friend, or wives, don't find a girlfriend that you go to every time you're upset at your husband, and she just is over there and saying, oh, you're right, I can't believe he's doing these kind of things. Don't find a friend who always just sides with you. Find a wise friend who will say, okay, I can understand why you might be hurt or angry. Can I ask you, how maybe have added to the situation? Or maybe I can coach you and share with you about some ideas that you can do to help better the situation. Find a wise friend who will stay for you both and not just side with one. Find a wise friend or several wise friends. Individuals as individuals, or a wise couple that you can go to. If you got a conflict, you can't figure it out, you can sit down with a wise couple and they can help you talk it through. They're a great person to have you on your team. My wife and I have several wise friends in our life that have helped us numerous times throughout our marriage. We've had wise friends, pastors, mentors and role models, coaches and counselors. Every one of those. I encourage you to find someone that fits in every one of those categories and see if you can get them on your team to help you to build a great marriage. Lastly, I talk about personal resources. Personal resources. Well, I have already shared some in a couple other classes about this, but there are a number of books to read that are, in my mind, like the best of the best books out there on marriage. And I have a link in the notes to some of the best books. One is my book called The Pledge of a Lifetime. It'll help on communication. Another book is called Love and Respect. It helps learning some of the key dynamics between each other as husband and wife. Another book is Sacred Marriage. It's about what do you do when he or she is causing pain or heartache and you're not sure how to communicate. What can you learn to do to even help the situation? And even more so, even as you do that, find that help in a relationship with God. Several other books I recommend. The 5 Love Languages, I think, is a great book, but go to that link in the teaching notes and you'll find a list of 8 or 10 books that I recommend for marriage. Conferences. Most people don't recognize or realize that there are actually marriage conferences you can go to. I mean, just like there's a training conference for your business or where you can get CEUs. There's like CEUs for marriage. Did you know that? My wife and I have been to over 12 conferences, different conferences over the years, where we have learned about marriages. Well, again, in the show notes to this video, okay, there is a link for the first recommended conference, conference I recommend that you go to. It's called A Weekend to Remember. Go to the teaching notes, click on that link, and go to that conference. Sign up. You can go to this conference. It's held all over the United States. You can go to this conference year after year after year. And if you go, there's a place for a code or a group name. I think it's called a group name. And put in there Madly in Love, and you'll get a discount. I also get, it's like if I get 5 people, for every 5 people that sign up using that group link, I get a free pass to go, either for myself or to send someone else who can't afford it. So, but you get a discount on that. So put Madly in Love as for the group code. Again, go to a marriage conference. I can't tell you how helpful those will be. And it's a great time to get away and go together as a husband or wife. Groups, another personal resource. My wife and I have been a part of marriage groups on a number of occasions and learned tremendous amount from other people. There's a lot of times if you go to a church somewhere, you can find a small group that focuses especially on marriage. So even if you don't go to a church somewhere, just go and ask someone, is there a group in this church that meets that talks about marriage? We'd like to go just to learn about a marriage. You can go different places and find one if you just check some of those out. Another recommendation is, as I do suggest, go to a church somewhere if you don't, where Jesus is talked about and used as a model for what love looks like. It's a great place to learn. And then under this idea of personal resources, I just talk about 2 other ideas. The idea, number one, that to have a great marriage, you're going to have to get focused and stay focused on building it and making it great. You're going to have to be focused on all of these matters, on that vision and all of these ideas I've talked about to build your marriage. You know, when we first got together in my relationship with my wife, and probably the same with your spouse, when we first got together, the major focus in our lives was each other. Sadly, it doesn't take long, usually a few months to a few years before each other is no longer our major focus. Other matters creep in and take our time and energies. And it's not before long that we begin to feel a disconnect. And I want to suggest, if that's you, it's probably because the focus is every other place but on each other. And I want to say, start with these weeks 13, 14, 15, these 3 classes, and get back to creating a vision and looking at these ideas and how to put the focus back on your marriage and relationship to make it into something great. And finally, similar kind of a thing is make it a priority. Make it a priority. Think of all these other priorities you have in life: parenting, your work, your hobby, your health, your investments. All these different areas in life have become a priority, except your marriage. And yet the marriage is the most important thing in your life. When you stop and think about it, that relationship is the most important relationship here on earth. And I want to say, get back to making it a priority. And one of the best ways that I encourage you to do so is go back through everything I've shared in the last two weeks and begin putting all of these ideas in practice. Take the time, get away for a weekend, spend time every week for weeks on end until you begin putting all this together. And then you begin making a priority and a focus to living it out. Do this, and you'll be well on your way to building a great marriage. Well, that is all I have for tonight in this class, once again, on making your marriage great. Bye for now.